gentlemen, you know what? I'm just going to keep it real. We were on our Facebook Live. And Brother Kurt, you see him smiling down there. We were on our Facebook Live doing our due diligence on time. You dig? Because we came on a Friday.
Yes.
At 2 o'clock Pacific Coast time. But as they used to say, due to technical difficulties
Yeah.
on Facebook Live, we weren't able to give that what it was, you know, but I promised, and KC, KC, thank you for coming back, man. That's called bring back music. That's it. Yeah. KC, what's going on, man?
Hey, man, it's all about you, my brother.
You see what I got behind me in the back? This is my inspiration corner right here.
You represent. You represent.
Oh, you too, though. I see that.
Totally.
All our Memphis people just now went, yeah, we know what that feels like. You know? We got to rep. It's something about that Memphis thing, man, that it just gives me pride. It just gives me pride, man, for so many reasons. Memphis is known, of course, for barbecue around the world, and I'm going to say the best barbecue in the world. I know our competition is what, KC in Texas, but... No.
There's no competition.
There's no, right. I got you. Well,
we can just stop it right there.
We can stop it right there. Well, we'll say the professed competition, KC in Texas, and then we're known, of course, for Elvis Presley did his thing and put it on the map, Yeah. But even before Elvis, there was the Memphis Sound, which Elvis got a lot from. Yeah. And the people who started that Memphis Sound, ladies and gentlemen, I'm so glad KC is here because he's one of the main people keeping that torch alive, not just with the Memphis Sound, but music itself. KC, what is the Memphis Sound, brother?
Man, the Memphis Sound is really like, it's like the ultimate gumbo of music. That's the ultimate gumbo. And what I mean by that is, in Memphis, it doesn't matter if you're black, white, blue, green, or whatever, you play rock, you play soul, you play gospel, you play blues, you play classical, you play jazz, you play whatever the gig is that day.
Gotcha.
And that's one thing about Memphis musicians, in my opinion, are the most diverse musicians because because we are always around everything and everybody always infuses. You can be on a blues gig, but they're going to infuse some gospel elements and some jazz elements into that because, it may be straight ahead blues, but the singer's singing straight out the church, or even then they may start scatting or whatever. Right. So it's a gumbo.
It's a gumbo, man. And using the word gumbo, a lot of people when they're learning that education of that Southern sound, they know the Memphis sound, soul, home of the blues. But then they think also right down the road from us, New Orleans. When you mentioned with its thing, what would you say the difference of the feel is? Or is there a connection that connects the two?
Well, it's all a connection because all of it generates from Black music and the Delta. Because once again, everything from the sharecropping, or just hymnals and spiritual hymns, to blues, to Delta blues, and like I said, because everything is just kind of like an extension of each other. Because even when it comes to what we call the New Orleans sound, New Orleans is the New Orleans sound, the Louisiana sound is a combination of jazz and zydeco. Right. Whereas once again, and all it is really just the vibe is there, but the instrumentation may be a little bit different. Right. Zydeco, of course, the dominant situation is the accordion and and the chest, the steel. Yeah. So, but a lot of times it's exact same elements, but it's just you have different instrumentation. but it's all about feel good. It's all about, whatever you're doing. If you cook, you're doing this thing, you try to capture that moment right there.
Got you. Man, that's a perfect explanation, because one thing that I remember, I was mentioning before, and we've talked about it. I'm a PK, Memphis, Tennessee. Dad, our first church was in Orange Mound. Hey, Memphis, shout out to Orange Mound.
Orange Mound.
2999 Barron Avenue, Breath of Life.
Sorry, man.
Church, man. Right there, right by Sims and Lamar. Open that area. Y'all know what I'm saying. But it was a sense of, and then we moved to Longview Heights Seventh-day Adventist Church on Miller, which was a bigger church. But one thing that came with it that I remember specifically at Breath of Life, man, was a lot of the members that came that were newly baptized into the the belief, and specifically our church. They brought their feel of Church of God in Christ, which is Memphis home. They brought their feel of the Baptist groove. They brought their feel, and one thing my father was adamant about is, we're gonna keep what you feeling, bring it here, and let's finish that story. So I remember, man, that education growing up, brother, with that feel of gospel, that feel of blues, that feel of soul. So what's your thing with that, the church sound and the church experience all through the South accordingly, but Memphis specifically? Yeah. It's the main ingredient, ain't it?
Of course, because soul music is just that. It's soul. Gospel is about soul. It's about what you're feeling, and it's about how you're expressing yourself and how you're presenting yourself, and everything's from the heart. And that, because there's a difference between playing the music and feeling the music.
Break that down for me.
Because you can have all the technique in the world, you can have all the fundamentals, but and you can be a technically sound musician, right? Just like you may have somebody that's playing a million notes, and they got all the right riffs and runs, and they're technically sound, and it sounds great. But then you can have somebody else come back and just sing one note, or play that one note, and you can feel everything that they felt in that one note. And in my opinion, I'll give you a prime example of that. Of someone that's not from Memphis and someone that's from Memphis. And I love both of them. Kenny G is a great sax player. But Kenny G is he's very technical sound. I mean, he plays But Kirk Whalum, who's from Memphis,
also a PK,
also a PK. But Kirk will play one note, and you feel everything in that one note.
Right on.
Exact same time frame. 10 seconds of this, 10 seconds of that. But he would play that one note, and you're like, man, I got it. I feel what he meant with just that one note. So it's about, so sometimes you can play things but there's a difference between, playing it and feeling it. Like, you can be reading it, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're feeling what you're reading. So that's the technique.
Brother, because I can say this, and we're, what we're saying right now, feeling is what it's about. When I remember growing up in Memphis, man, and still to this day, you had to, it was feeling it, man. It was no matter whether it was in church, walking down Beale Street, or whatever, it's just jamming in somebody's backyard, feeling it.
And because I think the Memphis sound, to me, is just like when you're a baby and you're crying, and the only thing that'll put you to sleep or calm down is your mama rocking you and humming.
Go ahead now.
You know what I'm saying? Because just hearing mama's voice and you feel that sense of calm and that sense of comfort. Okay, I'm home. And it's not like she's shaking you saying be quiet. She's rocking you saying, no, it's gonna be okay.
I love that. That.
So it's kind of like that analysis where, the Memphis thing is all about the feel of it. They're not forcing it on you. It's just they're just kind of helping to embedded in your DNA.
There you go. And speaking of that, brother, that was a perfect segue into where I was going right now. Because you're wearing the T-shirt on your chest. You wearing
Come on with it.
Down. You dig what I'm saying? Hey, and I got it on. I got it over my shoulder.
I'm telling you, I got
inspiration here.
We got a rip. We got a rip.
So what you just said is it's about that DNA, that feeling that the sound gives to the world. Now, with Stax Records,
yes.
Now let's set the education straight. Al Bell, if from what I remember correctly, who's one of my mentors, who I've been blessed to say thank you, Mr. Bell.
Yeah.
But from what I remember of him saying that he didn't start Stax.
No.
Right. So can you kind of give that correlation of the inception of it, and why did who picked that up?
Well, what it was, Stax was created by Estelle Axton and Jim Stewart, who were, they basically, Stax, people don't realize Stax started out, Stax was a record store and it was a theater, right? And back then, everything was mom and pop. Everybody had a mom and pop record store. Normally you went to the corner grocery or the corner sundry to get your, you didn't go to the Walmarts and stuff. Everything was in your community. And so Stax started out really as a record store. And basically, but what happened was it was attached to a movie theater. And basically they started seeing, the neighborhood, because back then, they have a speaker outside the store and they play like the hit single or whatever.
Okay. And
next thing you know, they were able to say, let's we can do this too. And there were so many musicians in that area, so many young musicians and young artists that they decided, hey, we can basically, record our own records, press them up, and sell them out of our own store.
Okay.
Right? So that's how the whole, situation started. But you're right in the middle of, South Memphis.
Gotcha.
And little did we know, right in that, in that 5 mile radius, you had a young David Porter.
There you go.
You had a young Maurice White. You had Isaac Hayes. You had, James Alexander.
There you go. There you go. That's right.
You had Carla and Rufus Thomas. Well, actually, you had a Rufus Thomas.
You had a Rufus. Right.
And not that far from them, lived a young lady by the name of Aretha Franklin.
Aretha Franklin, that's right.
So you had all this because that was the neighborhood.
That's right.
All they did was they just took the resources of the neighborhood.
Come on now.
Right? And they just, and next thing you know, they had all these young, high school musicians and stuff like that was coming and saying, these kids got a little something, because we all know in the music industry, a lot of times it's a young person's game.
Come on now, I got you.
So once again, they took the youth, because the youth are the main ones that buy the records, that dance to the records, that let you know what's hip, what's not hip. And they were smart enough to listen to, what the streets were saying. The streets said, we like this. So they were like, okay, let's put that together. So that's how Stax kind of, morphed into, they didn't have this mindset of we're just gonna be the next Motown. They're like, no, we're just gonna put out music that we know we can sell.
Yeah, and you know what? Thank you for that history, brother, because just as a pinpoint, you are, I know for a while, but you are still affiliated with Stax as far as the, what was your position or your integral there at Stax, right?
Well,
then and now.
Well, for me, for many years, actually, I've got several kind of influences that's inspired my career that I'm still affiliated with.
Gotcha.
For many years, I was musical director. I being a musical director for the Barcades.
Right on, man.
Which was, a Stax and a Memphis staple.
That's right.
Actually, and Larry Dodson and James Alexander, big shout out for, for first of all, even hiring me. Then And then
Wow.
years later, it's saying, look, not only are we going to hire you, but now we want you to, be the musical director and
Come on now.
and lead us.
Gotcha.
And then years later, we were all out on tour together. And then I luckily became, I left the Barcades and became the keyboardist and musical director for another group that actually got their start with Stax. And I'm still their musical director now, which is Confunction. Confunction started, and it's crazy because what happened was Confunction started out, of course, in the Bay Area, in California. They were called Project Soul. Okay. But what happened was they hooked up with Norman West, who was with the Soul Children.
Ah.
Norman West, and they said, we want to get back to Memphis. And, so Norman put them on the van with him.
Look at that.
They drove back to Memphis. Norman said, look, I've got this other band, that can also be a backup band for some of the other acts.
Okay.
And ironically, because if you watch Watch Stax, and you mentioned Watch Stax, if you watch Stax closely, the backup band for Rufus Thomas on Watch Stax is Confunction. That's Michael Cooper, Felton Pilot, and that is Confunction. They were the
brother. Okay.
And so basically, they got their start in Memphis being session musicians for Stax.
Okay.
And while they were in Memphis, because the Barcades were kind of like, their big brothers, while they were in Memphis, they changed their name from Project Soul to Confunction.
The Confunction. Look at that history. Look at that history. Man, thank you for this, brother, because it's always better, and I know people watching it, it's always better but you can get it directly from where it's from. And that's my brother KC is setting a lot of the records straight, I'm
telling you, but I've been so blessed because I've been able to be out on the road with these guys and sit back as a young buck and just absorb all the stories and all the history, and just listen to James Alexander and Larry talk about
priceless.
And then to go over there and hear, Michael Cooper and Felton and Carl Deacon and Fuller, talk about how Memphis is a second home for them even now.
Gotcha.
They used to live in Whitehaven.
Okay.
Right there, Winchester and Millbranch.
Because I was right there off Brooks Road, off Brooks Road. So I got you. Yeah.
The Windsor Apartments and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, well, right. That's where it is. Not too far from Gridley's, further down Winchester.
I'm telling you, man.
But that whole thing that you're bringing into this now, brother, that's another thing. I'm getting flashbacks that I'm going to call blessings of being able to be raised in Memphis, man, around this crucial time, even in church, about people, like O'Mara Dawson, who was our choir director, Gail Murphy, who's still doing her brother. Gail Murphy was one of and her brother Claude Jones Jr., the choir director. These people, O'Mara was at Breath of Life with us, and then we went to Longview Heights. Gail and her brother was there. These people took me under their wing, and that whole thing of the church presentation, the gospel feel. And then, like I said, on Friday nights, I was supposed to, I'm telling my business, but I got my driver's license, right? And I could drive. My dad said, all right, now, you go to choir rehearsal, come on home. All right, cool. Thanks, Pop. I'd head on to choir rehearsal, but I'd hang that off of 3rd Street, go down to 3rd and Calhoun, and give me some of that marmalades on me. So, and they're doing this thing on the keyboards, and it's that was my other side of education, where now you just brought in, brother. Yeah. Man, that whole element of that, and the brothers, the Barcades, the Confunction, all the shows at the Mid-South Coliseum. Oh man, priceless stuff.
And I'm telling you, and it was a time where, unlike now, you could hone your craft, as a young guy in the clubs, because back then the clubs were live entertainment driven.
Come
As
on, that's
a, they're DJ driven. And even then, if you were entertainer, technically there was not an age limit. You just couldn't sit at a table where there was alcohol being served. You know, and I was one of those. You know, I mean, I started out, playing, receptions and situations. I was 15, 16 years old, and I was in this group called Eminence. And Eminence was like the backup band for Rufus and Carla Thomas. You know,
come on, at 16. Go ahead.
I was 16 years old, man, and I would go to Jackson, Tennessee with these guys, and and I was just, and basically I was like the backup, keyboardist. The main keyboard player was Marvell Thomas, who was who was Rufus's son, Carla's brother. There were times Marvell couldn't make the gig, so they said, well, let's get this young cat, because actually my cousin / uncle, we always call him Unc, but Andrew Love, who was a sax player for the Memphis Horns. So he would, he kind of brought me in, and and so I was like, 16, 15, 16, 17 years old, and they're already in their 30s and 40s. But they took me under their wing. They promised my mom and pop, they keep me out of trouble and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And and I got the blessings to go and do it. So it was just, so once again, but that was an era where even after that, you were able to play in the clubs, be around seasoned musicians, be around and basically whatever you were not doing, they, whatever you were doing wrong, they could tell you what you were doing, what you need to do right. As opposed to, nowadays, sometimes people feel that, I'm not going to tell you anything because you're going to steal something from me. Man, first of all, if you were insecure, then it was never yours in the first place. Right. And the crazy thing about it, I remember I would play Sunday mornings at church, man, and it'll be so funny. It's like I play in a church, and they say, "Oh, you're playing too bluesy," and then I would play in the club. They say, "Oh man, you're playing too churchy." I'm like, wait a minute, what is the difference? I'm trying to, but I was trying to, but once again, I was trying to figure out what is. When they sent me to church, they said, the church said I'm playing too bluesy, and the bluesy said I'm playing too churchy. It's like, right. How to reverse this?
Gotcha. But see, that showed that whole thing. That is a tremendous school you came from, brother. At 15 and 16, Rufus Thomas's camp, personally taking you on that blood, and that I'm gonna say that blood, sweat, and tears of staging at that time, man. And it's always about
presentation. It's about presentation, being professional, looking professional, being on time. It was that regimen. This, you got to take. If you're going to be out here, you got to take this serious. It's not a game for us.
And everybody I talk to about that brings up KC, because I brag on you, brother. I brag on my fam, man, because I'm proud, and I'm proud of everybody that. But and everybody that I talk to says that. They're like, Kurt about his business. Kurt is like, when it's rehearsal time, it's rehearsal time. Yeah. And I mean, and that's what you're saying. That's the camp you come from.
That's the camp I come from because even like now, I've been blessed to, work with a lot of different people, because I'm still musical director for like Howard Hewitt and Sherelle.
Oh man, power.
Lately, I've been doing a couple of things like with Regina Bell and Glen Jones, but I got a good, musical family around me. I call it my music family, which is my band. But I learned that you treat people like professionals.
Come on.
And if you pay them like professionals, you treat them like professionals until they show you differently. So as a professional, my concept, just like I learned, is like, look, here's the songs you need to learn.
Yeah.
When you come to rehearsal, we're not really rehearsing. We are basically fine-tuning. you should already know your stuff before you even get to rehearsal.
Yeah. Yeah.
And basically, if you're not coming in prepared, then that means you didn't take the gig seriously. Now, if you didn't take the gig seriously, why should I seriously pay you? Because there are other people that are out here trying to take the gig seriously, and you have to treat every situation like it's your own. You know, my job as a musical director, my job is to make sure that the artist that I'm, you know, representing never has, all they have to do is come out there, grab that mic and say good evening and start doing it. They never have to turn back and look at that band.
Wow.
That's my,
wow.
And so my job is to make sure that the band is already prepared. But even then, my job is to get them the material way ahead of the show. Here's the material. Here's everything. This is the key we're doing it in. Here's a copy of, you know, an example of it. Here's the arrangement. So that way, when we come in, because I believe in working hard, not, you know, working smart, not hard. There we go. We recording.
We in there. All right. So, brother, where we were, you were explaining that whole thing about being ready for, you know, rehearsals. When it's time to go, it's time to go.
Yeah, it's very simple because the first thing I try to tell, you know, any artist or actually the musicians and background singers, whomever, is let me send you all the material that you need. That's the first thing I'm gonna do. I'm gonna send you all the material. So that way, I'm gonna send you material. I'm gonna send you the set list. I'm gonna send you the keys. So that way, when we get to rehearsal, we're not necessarily rehearsing, we're just fine tuning, because there might be a little transition, you know, ending or something that we're gonna add. But you should already come in knowing the song and knowing the arrangement.
Gotcha.
There's no excuse. Now, I try to give everyone an opportunity, but then I let them know on the front end. It's just like anything. It's just like you come in to a class. Well, if you come into the class, you got an A. It's upon you to lose your grade. Which means if you come to rehearsal and you're not prepared, then you already showed me that you didn't take the gig seriously. So at that point, my job is not, you know, to make sure that you're okay. My job is to make sure that my client, which is a Howard Hewitt or Bell or Glen Jones, my obligation is to make sure that they're comfortable. And if you're not coming in already, you know, knowing their material, then that's saying that you disrespected this artist's craft.
Check it out.
It's my job to find someone else that's gonna respect the gig.
Gotcha.
You know,
gotcha.
and I just tell, and I say the same thing to my class, you know, because I teach at the university.
All right.
You know, everybody can play the notes. You know, you can find anybody that can play the songs. But at the same time, when it comes to doing shows and things like that, you know, you want people that can follow instructions and do what you need them to do. The gigs are not hard if you just play your role, just do your job. You know, and that's the main thing you want. You want first of all people that respect, you know, the music, respect the artists that they're playing, that they're performing with, because you're trying to give them an opportunity. Because everybody says, "Oh man, just give me a chance, just give me a chance." But then you give them a chance, and all of a sudden now they're, yeah, I'm gonna get it. No, you should already have it. There was no excuse for you not to already have this stuff. You know, treat the gig like it's your own. Now, if you don't respect your own music, then once again, you want to be paid like a professional.
Got to, yeah. Like you said, and much respect to that, brother. Much respect. And I know dealing with the names that you are directing the music behind, brother. I mean, all the way from, I'm gonna start with the Barcades, Funk Shun, where you powerhouse in itself of those entities of musicians, man, legend of groundbreakers. And then even as we'll call it, like in the 80s, the powerhouse vocals of Howard Hewitt, Glen Jones. Come on, man. I mean, these people are also groundbreakers and trendsetters in their own right, man. So it's like when Kurt directs the band, You dig what I'm saying? It can't be
Yeah.
anything less than what you just put out right now. Because look who's fronting. You did. You got Howard Hewitt, Glen Jones.
Yeah, and that's the thing, because they've entrusted me with their career, and because they've entrusted me with their career,
right?
It's my job, because if anything happens that's wrong, it's on me. It's not on the musicians. That it's like, okay, if this was not the right musician, it's not their fault. It's my fault for hiring them.
Gotcha.
So I tell people all day long, it's nothing personal, it's business. You know,
right?
Because, you know, all Howard wants to do is, you know, he wants to be able to perform. He doesn't want to be looking back saying, man, does the band have it right? We don't even have that. We don't even have those we don't even have those type of, you know, talks.
Right. Gotcha. You
know, same with Glenn or Regina or whomever, you know. But and I take it as a feather in my cap, to where even with Howard or, you know, Glenn or Tony Terry, you know, down the line. Most of the, you know, even with Sherelle and Alexander O'Neill, most of the acts, for me, when they hired us, we don't really, you know, they really technically doesn't rehearse with the band. They say, KC, this is what we want.
Okay.
We'll see you on the gig.
Okay. Right on.
And they would have met the band, you know, at soundcheck on the gig after the, you know, the flights have been booked and the hotels. But because they're making sure, they're saying, look, we put this in your hands. We trust you. You know what we're looking for. So it's my job to make sure to crack the whip, you know, to where, like I said, when they come in, they know their arrangement. Most of the time, even when it came to Howard and, you know, and all of, you know, I would just put the show together. He would say, look, man, these are the songs. Let me know what you come up with. And
okay, right on.
I'll be like, so what we got, you know?
And you get a master performer like Howard Hewitt, and I mean, the master of his vocal technique, the whole 9 yards. When he's ready to hit it, he's gonna hit it. You dig? So it's exactly what you say. I got you, man. I got you.
No, that's my dude, man. That's my brother from another mother, man.
It's much respect, man. And to all the people you just named. So let me ask you this, man. With everybody you just named, and the fact that they're still giving what they're given, and what the world fell in love with their talent, what put them on the map. What do you see the difference, man? Because I had a brother on the other day, Sean Fatman Owens. We had a discussion. He was one of the cats with New Jack Swing with Teddy Riley and the Richard Sound. And the topic of conversation then was, he has a campaign that he's calling "Bring Back R&B."
Yeah,
he's made his whole project of recordings now is called The Velvet Room.
Yeah.
And his mission is to say, I'm not hating on nobody, but I want our R&B back. And the people you just named, these are people who, come on, foundations of what we consider R&B.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on that, man?
I think he kind of hit it on the head, because one thing that has happened, particularly more so with Black music than anything, a lot of times it has been watered down, it has been infiltrated, and it has been accepted by others doing what we've created and not us to do it. Meaning, we know right now Howard Hewitt, to, you know, and I would never say this to his face, because I don't want him to know that I appreciate him like that. You know? But to me, Howard is probably one of the most distinctive and influential voices of our time. I mean, you got to realize this guy worked with Michael Jackson and Quincy Jones. You know, he was on speed dial with them, Luther Vandross, you know, Stanley Clarke, George Duke, you know, this guy, you know, but at the same time, if Howard Hewitt tries to put out a Howard Hewitt record right now, it gets minimal support. But unfortunately, if a young, you know, white counterpart comes out singing like Howard Hewitt, He gets invited to the Grammys.
Got you.
I'm just keeping it real.
Yeah. No, I got you. Yeah.
And it just seems, it's just like nowadays, you look at like nowadays, when it comes to like major labels and and radio and things like that, in this day and era, Earth, Wind and Fire, which to me is one of the greatest bands of all time, would not get signed. Black bands are not being signed and being recorded and being promoted like they were then. But white bands are continuing to be signed and getting $1 million budgets and, you know, and promotions and all kinds of stuff, you know. But at the same time, it's easier for them to come back and emulate what we created, and then they get credit for it. You know, I'm not hating, I'm just stating facts.
No,
you know?
Never a hate. I got you, brother. Right.
You know, and that's just a realization, because we create and other people will pick it up and they will profit more so off of it, because then they will shut us out of it.
Yeah. And you know what?
I don't like.
No, brother. I'm with you 100%, because one of my mentors, Wayne Bond, and you mentioned Earth, Wind and Fire. Wayne, one of the producers, writers for Earth, Wind, coming up at his camp, one of his most, I loved his phrase that stuck with me, man. He said that there is a difference between creation and imitation.
Exactly.
And just what you said. That's exactly it. There's a big difference. They're the creators
it's a big difference.
and the imitators. And if that, like you said, and we're not dogging the ones who are having to do what they have to do to make their career what it is and their dream come true. But let's not forget where their foundation came from.
Because and you know, I'm in Memphis.
Yeah.
You know, and here it's a big battle, because here, you know, Elvis is Elvis.
Got you.
And I got mad respect for Elvis. But the reality of it really is, Elvis, basically his whole persona, his whole style, his whole image, and he admitted it himself, he grew up hanging around black people.
There you go.
You know, he was not the first one to shake his hips. Black people was doing it forever. It was just that he was, you know, the white guy that did it. And the white, you know, and the white establishment was trying to say, okay, fine, we're going to accept that. You know, you know, he wasn't the first one to sing "You Ain't Nothing But a Hound Dog." That was
Big Mama Thornton. That's right.
You know,
that's right.
But and I'm not saying that he was not, you know, great at what he did. All I'm saying is he didn't create it. You know, but so sometimes when we label, it's just like right now, you look at, you know, and I'm with the Grammys and I'm
yeah.
But you just look at the landscape of music nowadays. You know, right now R&B, or who they consider R&B, you know, singers now, Justin Timberlake, Justin Bieber, Robin Thicke, right?
Right. I got you.
And I'm not, you know, I'm not knocking their craft. I'm not.
Yeah.
But all I'm saying is they're more recognized, you know, than a Howard Hewitt or a Peabo Bryson or a Jeffrey Osborne.
Yeah.
Or even if we go young, because, you know, even, you know, they consider Usher, you know, new school, right?
Good point.
Right? But they don't consider him, you know, you know, R&B. It's like they will recognize a Justin Timberlake as R&B before they recognize Usher. When you look at the nominations for best R&B record nowadays, you know, a lot of times, you know, and now it's being dominated by, you know, not us, which a lot of times that's because it's not that we're not putting out the records. We're not getting recognized the exact same way for putting out the records. Got you. And brother, the point that you just made up right there, I want to ask you this, because when you were talking and giving that and giving what you're giving on those topics right there, man, my mind went to different. Number one, Howard Hewitt, Regina, and we keep going to Howard. We keep going to Jeffrey Osborne.
we keep going to the names of those soul R&B, the sisters Regina Bell, Mickey Howard. These people are
Mickey
still
Howard,
singing,
Gladys
not just
Knight.
singing. Yes, they still singing. They can still work a crowd. They can do the left to right to the stage. They can bring you to your feet. That's who they are. That's what they do. Now, in knowing that, and the insight you just gave us of being one of the industry insiders, the Grammy, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
What's your take then, brother? Is it the fact that the public, have we played a part? And those of us who buy the records, who now, even in the day of being able to go and click and buy a record for a single for 99 cents or an album for 15, we can download it. Have we dropped the ball as the public, even our own community, Black community, people of color, of saying, hey, wait a minute, you know, the Howard Hewitt record, or people come out, have we dropped the ball? Or is it really the machine or the powers that be in mainstream?
It's a little bit of both, because number one, we don't, for the most part, although we could, but we are not Sony. We are not CBS. We're not NBC. We're not, Warner Brothers. We're not Universal. We are the biggest consumers.
Gotcha.
But we don't run the companies. So with that being said, a lot of times the companies look at, if I can get a white person to sing soul music, which they call it blue-eyed soul, right? Then I can sell more records.
Okay.
That's their philosophy. That doesn't make it true. That's just their philosophy.
I got you.
As if to say Black folks don't buy records. We buy records, but at the same time, and I love Adele. I think Adele is an incredible singer, but I take a Fantasia all day long. Okay. Because if you put them side by side and say, okay, who's gonna make me feel that record? Who's gonna stand right there and sing the ABCs and make me feel every letter? I'm gonna take Fantasia. That's soul music. And a lot of times, and Adele has mentioned it herself, she grew up listening to and trying to emulate.
Yes, she has. Black artists.
Well, why is it that we always have to, try to reinvent ourselves? But country music has been country music since the beginning.
From the beginning. That's right.
Rock had, and let's keep it real. Even when it comes to rock, we created rock.
Come on. That's right.
But it goes back to, although we created it, they decided, okay, we're gonna use it until now that we've cornered the market of owning this. Now we don't need you no more. Now we have our own that we can teach this to. Gotcha. Now we're gonna let them profit off of it, as opposed to letting the creators of it profit off. That's why, now, when, Charlie Wilson or, Howard Hewitt or Jeffrey Osborne or Earth, Wind and Fire, sometimes they feel like they have to dumb down their industry to sell records. Heavy. Which is crazy, because Peabo Bryson has always been Peabo Bryson, right? That's right. Marvin Gaye is going to always be Marvin Gaye. That's right. That's right. But why is it that, you have, and trust me, nowadays you see more, especially like on all these TV shows. I mean, not The View, but The Voice and people. Man, you have never seen that many people not of color do so many riffs and runs. I got you. All that came out of the church. All day long. I got you. That's right. That's right. That's right. And it makes you wonder too, Brother Kurt, and I'm just going to keep giving it up to the man. Much respect for what you're doing. I'm going to say in the trenches of that soul music, keeping it alive. You did, not just on the recording side, but you're on the live music side, in the faces, the energy of the crowd, day to day, keeping it going. Now,
another part of kind of like tag of what we were just talking about, you mentioned, you're right, we're not Sony, we're not, you know, the major labels.
Yeah.
But with the birth of iTunes, with the birth of, like, I remember CD Baby and there's so many other formats now, can the independent artist in your thought, in your vibe of it, your take on it, including even the artists of like the masters of soul, like, you know, of Jeffrey Osborne and Peebo and Howard and the rest, and the sisters Regina and all of them, and even the bands, is there an independent avenue that these masters of music can pursue? And if they do, correct me if I'm wrong, it would be up to the public to support it, right?
Yes, but also, and independent music right now is stronger than it's ever been. Yeah. Mainly for that fact, because a lot of artists that were not being signed, that the labels did not want to take a chance on, they say, okay, fine. And thank God, like social media has and the internet has started to make the playing field level a little bit more. Okay. But the main way people still listen to music and entertainment are still dominated by, you know, the white power structures. We don't own the major TV stations. You know, like I said, once again, we're not CBS, you know, ABC, NBC, Fox, TNT. We don't own them. You know, we have stations, but at the end of the day, local television, the main three or the main four are not owned by us. And they, just like radio, we don't own iHeartRadio. You know, we don't own, you know, although we own stations. Yeah. But at the same time, their situation is, this is what we're going to program you to play. This is what we're going to program you to listen to. This is what we're going to program you to watch. You know, when it comes to TV, exact same thing. You know, we're gonna air the Country Music Awards. We're gonna air, you know, the Billboard Awards. You know, a lot of times the Soul Train Awards is on, you know, UPN or something. You know? Right. I got you. Not to say it's not a better show. Actually, a lot of times it's a better production. It's just the fact that if they want to be able to control the narrative and say, well, this doesn't sell because. No, it doesn't sell because you chose for it not to sell. But at the same time, what's happening is now people, and now the younger generation is starting to say, well, you know, we don't watch NBC and CBS no more. Now we're watching YouTube and Facebook and Twitter. Right. And so now the artists that we grew up with, they're having to learn that technology and catch, you know, and that's and and so that's part of the thing, is like how they used to do their production and how they used to distribute those things and put the records out. That whole system has changed. That's right. So now it's easier for the kids that, you know, got a laptop, they can quickly do their stuff, you know, got their own microphone, and then they can upload it on the SoundCloud right now, where we still, you know, where the old school artists, they still took pride in, no, I want to get in the studio and I want to get all the people around and, you know, get the real drummer and the real bass player, you know, and spend those budgets like they used to have to make that type of record. You know. And so it's kind of a, you know, it's kind of both worlds, you know, that plays a part in it. Brother, you know what? Once again, we're finding the more interviews I'm doing with different people, like Wanda Vaughn of the Emotions, she did this a couple of weeks ago. And she was giving her input, of course, of Memphis, growing up, the whole thing, Stax. But then we got into this conversation, and Wanda made it, you know, she said, I miss the days when all of us could get into the room and record at one time. She said, because that's where the feeling was coming from. That's what we knew. We could feel it in the room. I forget, she said the room got hot or something like that. You know, she was feeling that. Hey, you get that hair sticking up on the back of your neck. Back of your head.
Oh, Kurt, man. Well, what can we give those independent artists today? Even mainly, let's talk to the young ones out here, man. The ones out here grinding in the bedroom, doing their thing and trying to, what can we give them? Well, what can you as a music industry insider and somebody that's been doing this thing, man, what can you give them as a ray of keep on keeping on?
Well, you try to give them, you try to pay things forward, not pay it back, but pay it forward. That was one thing that was taught to me. What I got from, the James Alexanders and the Willie Mitchells and, and the Michael Coopers, I try to pass it on to the next, to my students at the University of Memphis, and hopefully they can pass it on, because, and you try to help provide opportunities.
Right.
For them. I've got my studio, and I try to recommend that they collaborate with people, and because that's part of it, and real music, true artistry is coming back. Yeah, we all have laptops, we all have our own private studios and stuff like that, but like you just said, even with one of them, now everybody's starting to say, you know what, man, let me get back in the room with other cats. Let me get back and have the bass player be the bass player and the drummer be the bass, be the drummer. And everybody do the session together. And when you finish that recording, you look at each other like, oh, yeah, that felt good. Everybody shaking their head like, okay.
Yeah, man, that's right.
That's right. And it's coming, if you notice, that type of music is coming back. Bruno Mars, Bruno Mars introduced people to what we have been doing. Right. And basically now, if you notice, you got a lot of people that's trying to go back and get that 70s and get that 80s sound. That's and get that big band. And if you notice, he goes nowhere without his crew.
It's true. That's true.
Although he's Bruno Mars, but if you notice, he never performs without his guys. Although he can be up there by himself and have a house band that's playing for him. He's like, no. This is what I grew up on. This is what I respect. I'm just trying to do it. So if everybody kind of take that template, and say, you know what, let me help, not just myself, because we can all eat. It's enough for us out here for everybody.
That's right. Exactly. Man,
but you gotta be willing to do it.
You gotta be willing to do it, man. And you mentioned Bruno. Like Bruno is one of the cats that, when he started doing what you just mentioned there, man, that right there gave me I had a respect for the brother for doing that. CeeLo Green is another one that's keeping his, keeping that realness, that thing alive, But brother, we're gonna have to do a part 2. Because the wealth of information, man, and I know that when the viewers see this, no matter where I am, and I know it happens with you too, K, but wherever I travel in the world, man, and especially when I'm with musicians, this topic comes up. Yeah. Especially when they find out and know that I'm from Memphis. I mean, it comes up.
I'm telling you, and I say it all the time, Memphis has a built-in calling card. Because I say this and I brag about it. I say wherever I go. It's like you can go anywhere in the world, and if you see somebody and you go somewhere and they're performing, and they, hey, where you from? Oh, I'm from New York. Oh, New York's in the house. Hey, where you from? Oh, Atlanta's in the house. Chicago's in the house. Yeah. You say you from Memphis? Oh, no, you got to come up on this stage. You
come in. You go sing it or you gonna play it? One of the two.
Because they know you bringing the heat.
That's right.
You from Memphis? Oh, we know you. It's a natural calling.
I'm proud of that, man. I'm proud of that, man. That's right.
I'm gonna give you one more. I'm gonna give you one more thing.
Talk to me, man.
Like I said, you grew up in Orange Mound, right?
Mm-hmm. But no, the church was in Orange Mound, right? Yeah. I grew up in Whitehaven.
But you probably didn't know this. There's another person that basically grew up in Orange Mound, and I never knew it until I met him. Smokey Robinson.
Yes.
I did a record with Smokey Robinson, and it was a blues record.
Yes, that's right.
And we were doing this session, and it was just me and him, because it was for this movie, right?
Yeah.
So he said, I just wrote this blues song. He said, kind of. I said, well, I can do that. Man. I'm from Memphis. He said, y'all from Memphis too. I said, no, you're not. You're from Detroit. He said, no. He's like, in the summertime.
Now, what's the breakdown on that story? Go ahead. What did he say?
Yeah. So basically, we were doing this. A good friend of ours, Gerald McCauley. Gerald called me up. Hey, man, we're doing some music for this independent film, and Smokey wrote this song. He just wanted to be piano and vocals, right?
Yeah.
So so I went in to do the session. Mm-hmm. So I'm getting with Smokey, and Smokey's like, yeah, no. So I'm thinking it's gonna be like one of the Smokey types. He said, no. This is a blues thing. I just want to be just straight blues, just basic blues. I said, well, that's cool. I said, and I was joking. He said, well, I'm no blues, man. I'm from Memphis. He said, oh, cool. Yeah, he said, I'm from Memphis too. I said, no, you're not. You're from Detroit. He said, no. He said, no. He said, yeah. I grew up in Detroit. He said, but in the summertime, I lived with my grandmother. She grew up in Orange Mountain. She lived on Corns.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Yes. He was like in the summer. He was like, yeah, in the summertime. He said, man, I lived in Orange Mountain with my grandmother.
Wow, that's heavy.
And I was like, what? He said, yeah, man. He said, yeah, man. He's like, I'm from Memphis.
That kind of explains a lot there too, with that really
that
got
feel,
hold on me and everything else.
Feel.
That explains a lot too.
Yeah,
big
man.
up to Smokey, man.
big up to Smokey, baby.
Hey, before we go, man, a lot of and you know what's funny too, man? I'll tell you, brother. I was in a little town in Norway called Tønsberg, Norway, about an hour from Oslo. And one of the musicians that we were recording, man, did you know what he asked me when he asked about Memphis too? He said, what is Maine? He's like, I hear it and certain, he asked about Maine.
Yeah. M-A-N-E.
Come on.
M-A-N-E. Maine is you got to be from Memphis to know that. Because everybody's, man, what you doing?
That's right.
You wrong with that, man.
Man, that's right.
Man, you so praying that thing, man.
That's right, brother. That's right.
Instead of man, it's man.
It's man.
M-A-N-E.
That's right. That's right. And you can feel it. You can feel it.
Because it's one thing to say, man, you're wrong.
Yeah. Man. That's it.
You got to put some emphasis on that,
If the food's good, man.
Ooh, man.
And if it ain't good, man. You know what? I love you, KC. Thank you so much, man. Thank you, and much respect, brother. Please, brother, let's put together a part 2, man. I'd love to do a question and answer when you got time.
Hey, man, whatever you need me, man. Whatever you need me. Family takes care of family always.
Come on now. That's right, we do, brother. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only KC Clayton, Memphis, Tennessee original. Keep the funk alive, brother. Now, wait a minute. I didn't know you had the instrument in there with you.
Oh, yeah.
Giving us a little something. I'd love to, man.
Well,
we only got, and take us on out. If it cuts off, it cut off. But I didn't know you had it in there. I wish I'd have known it was there, brother. So definitely part 2, and we're gonna have some music on that one, y'all. Part 2 on that one.
right, man. Love you, man.
Love you too, man. Peace.